Kia ora tātea. Good morning, everyone. My name is Russell Dale, and I'm the Research and Development Manager for the Forest Growers Levy Trust, and I'm the CEO of Forest Growers Research. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the 2020 Forest Growers Research Conference. Like many people today, we are having to do things differently from the way we have in the past. This year's conference was planned to be in Nelson, but due to the impact of COVID on finances and the uncertainty over travel and meeting venues, we made the decision to host this year's conference as a virtual event. This is the 14th Forest Growers Research Conference organised by Forest Growers Research and its predecessor, Future Forest Research Limited, since 2009. Initially, 2 meetings were held each year, but in 2013, this was reduced to 1 meeting a year. The purpose of this annual conference is to present the highlights of an extensive forest growing research program to our key stakeholders. It covers work funded by industry and government across the whole value chain, and it includes updates on work outside the FGR program. That is the radiata pine breeding, export log fumigation, and some updates from Scion on new wood products. The focus of the conference is on deliverables and outputs from the research work, and its importance to you as forest owners, with less emphasis on the detail of the research methodology. The speakers are all available to provide further details after the conference, and the presentations will be available on the FGR website. The Forest Growers Levy Trust is the body that oversees the Forest Growers Levy to ensure that levy funds are spent for the benefit of all forest growers. The levy was first introduced in late 2013 after a referendum of potential levy payers. At the end of the first 6-year term, levy payers voted overwhelmingly to continue it for a further 6-year term. The Forest Growers Levy Trust is a key supporter and funder of the research work we'll be presenting over the next 2.5 days. This year, its contribution to research is $5.4 million. This is around 60% of the Levy Trust's investment in the 2020 work program. The levy funding is extremely important as it enables us to access other government and industry funding, so that the total value of the research program is around $19 million per year. The next slide shows the Forest Growers Roadmap and the supporting science and innovation strategy. These guide the Trust's investments in research. It is the Trust's Forest Research Committee, comprising forest grower representatives from large and small growers, that guide the overall direction of the research program and make funding recommendations to the Trust. The next slide shows the research program funded by the Trust extends right across the value chain, from biotechnology developments, plant propagation, breeding, forest establishment and management, protection from fire and biosecurity threats, through to harvesting and supply chain management. In the case of the Specialty Wood Products Partnership, the program also includes investigating new wood product options for these species. Rather than structuring the presentations by research program this year, we have organised the presentations along the supply chain. This is to show where research interventions, guided by the priorities set out in the Science and Innovation Strategy, are being made to add value or improve efficiency, safety and sustainability of forest growing. While the topics being presented are of value to all forest growers, we have also added an afternoon session, repeated on Wednesday afternoon, that has an emphasis on practical tools and on other species that are often of more interest to small growers. We trust that you find the presentations that have been delivered and the Q&A after each session interesting and useful to you, and that demonstrates the breadth and value of the work being supported by the Levy Trust on your behalf. Many of you will be aware that I had been planning for a while to step back from the role of Research and Development Manager. I have been in this position since Forest Growers levy was introduced in 2014, and prior to that I was involved in the establishment of Future Forest Research that became Forest Growers Research in 2014. It's been a privilege to lead the Forest Growers investment in research and development over this time, and to reinforce the critical role that research and development plays in our industry. The industry we're all part of today has been built on previous research funded by the government and industry. Research will continue to play a pivotal role in the future as the industry responds to climate change, changes in society's attitudes and expectations, and biological threats and global market changes. I'm pleased to be able to hand over the baton to Bart Challis, who takes over the role this week from his previous role as Chief Operating Officer at Scion. He has a strong science and commercial background in biological sciences in Europe and North America, as well as here in New Zealand. I've got to know Bart pretty well over the last 2 years in his role at Scion, and I can say confidently that the industry are extremely fortunate in having someone of Bart's calibre coming into this important industry leadership position. Finally, a big thank you to those involved in putting this conference together. A special thanks to Veronica Bennett for her efforts in learning new IT skills, promoting the conference and pulling all the presentations together. A special thanks also to Alison Wilson and Kylie Gunn from Scion, who have coordinated the considerable Scion input to the conference. Also the session chairs and all of the presenters who have grasped the challenge of participating in this conference in uncertain times with enthusiasm and open arms. With that, I'd like to pass over to Bart Challis to introduce himself and make some observations on this new role before we start the first conference session on new wood product developments with an introduction by Sean McBride from J&L. Thank you.